Hello folks, and welcome back to True Crime Phenomenon. This is Josh coming back to you with another video, and this is pertaining to the internal affairs investigation interview with Major Robert Anzueto. But first, for all of you that are new to the Jeremy Dewitte content and community, I wanted to give you a quick case overview of what we're discussing here. So, Jeremy Dewitte is a serial police impersonator, and Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey were subject to an internal investigations from Jeremy Dewitte complaints. Now, this all stems from cases brought against Jeremy Dewitte from body camera that was seized by the Windermere Police Department and given to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. And the cases ended up being in the double digits. I think it's 28 if I'm remembering correctly. And after Jeremy Dewitte had learned that he's being investigated, he sent his employees in to complain to Internal Affairs against specifically Vidler. I mean, he really went after Sergeant Vidler. So I think that's why what ended up happening to Vidler happened, but we'll get a little bit more into detail as we go a little bit further here. Now, I have an internal investigations interview with Michael Breen, which is a local attorney in Florida. And Michael Breen called the sheriff John Mina, which is his personal friends, to warn about Vidler. Now you can see that interview. It's in my Jeremy Dewitte playlist. Now this actually got the investigation moving forward. Eventually, Corporal Ramsey was suspended and Vidler was fired. Now Vidler is suing the sheriff, John Mina, for wrongful termination. PoliceTube has a great video on the subject, and I'll actually link that below. He's actually got a lot of good content on this internal affairs investigation. If you guys are new to the community, go check out PoliceTube. A lot of great content. He has like over, I think, 35,000 subscribers at this particular moment. A lot of great content, a lot of good stuff there. So let's go ahead and get into what this particular video is about now. So on May 20th, 2021 at 12:55 p.m., Sergeant Justin Wall of the Professional Standards Division met with Major Robert Anzueto and Corporal Willie Robinson from the Professional Standards Division at the Orange County Courthouse in Orlando, Florida. Anzueto was the head of the Special Operations Division from February 1st, 2019 to October 4th of 2020. Now, there was a directive given through Anzueto to the entire Motors Unit in the fall of 2019, and more specifically Vidler and Ramsey, to wrap up the case, give everything you're going to charge over to the state's attorney and move on. Now, Anzueto gave them a certain amount of time to make their case and give it over to the state's attorney. Essentially, drop dead date of end of December, so New Year, he handed over to the state's attorney and move on. Now, there was an email sent to Captain Carpenter on November 20th of 2019. Subject was the active case. And this came after speaking with the undersheriff, which is kind of suspicious to me considering the undersheriff works directly under John Mina, the friend of Michael Breen, which Michael Breen, if you go back and listen to my video, got video clips edited from Jeremy Dewitte showing Keith Vidler apparently harassing him. So essentially they wanted no more cases pertaining to this video that was recovered from Jeremy. End of December, make your cases. We're no longer actively seeking out or wasting the department's time, and that directive was given to Captain Carpenter after several meetings about the case, and then filtered down through the Motors Unit to Vidler and Ramsey to finish and submit your cases. Now, Anzueto had asked Vidler for an email overview on all the cases and statutes that were being broken, and on September 23rd of 2019, Sergeant Keith Vidler submitted that by email to Major Robert Anzueto, and he reviewed it with all the cases and statutes that Jeremy was breaking. Now, the number of cases, like I said before, were in the double digits. Go ahead and submit those cases. And there's a very important point here. And the point is, Major Anzueto is saying one thing, and Corporal Ramsey and Vidler are saying another. Now, if you go to my bond hearing part 5, you can hear Corporal 4 and 5, I have it in both. You can hear Ramsey under oath on the stand saying, we were ordered to stand down and, basically, unless we see Jeremy Dewitte committing a capital offense, we are to stand down. Okay? So what Anzueto is saying is that he basically said, don't turn a blind eye, but don't actively pursue cases pertaining to the video. Which, if you understand really what happens from this point on, that just, it can't be true, because Jeremy gets away with all kinds of stuff after this. Now, this is based on discussions with Chief Deputy Dewitte and the undersheriff. Now, this interview totals a little under 12 minutes, 11 minutes, 50 seconds. It's a rather short interview. You would think the guy who gave the directive to these particular people to stand down would be a little bit longer than a little over 10 minutes, but who am I to judge, right? I don't know these people. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think I don't condone what Michael Breen did. I don't condone him taking Jeremy Dewitte's information because they were, kind of friendly, and he had hired him to do some charity events and motor escorts for charity events. I don't condone Michael Breen going to his friend, John Mina, the sheriff, and basically tattletelling on people that are under him, because literally all that was happening was the investigation on Jeremy Dewitte, and he was going to go to prison probably for a long, long time. But Michael Breen got involved and spoke to the sheriff. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the sheriff, John Mina, because John Mina is ultimately responsible for what the police department does, not Michael Breen. Like I said, I do not condone what Michael Breen did. I think it's a terrible thing. But at the end of the day, it rests on John Mina's shoulders. And Keith Vidler is actually suing John Mina, which I'll insert a clip of that as well. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We're going to go ahead and get into the video now, and I'll catch you on the other side.
This is Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 6. Coverage you can count on.
All new at 6.
From here, it looks like a Walter. Yeah, it does. I thought it was a car.
A sergeant with the Orange County Sheriff's Office could lose his job over a wrongful arrest after he said this convicted felon was carrying a concealed weapon.
How is that carrying a concealed weapon? It's not even a weapon. It's for less lethal purposes.
The Sheriff's Office has given notice it intends to fire Sergeant Keith Vidler for what it says was abuse of power. Good evening, I'm Greg Wormuth.
I'm Vanessa Eccles. Sergeant Vidler is a 30-year veteran law enforcement officer who pulled people to safety during the Pulse nightclub attack. But an internal investigation shows during a traffic stop, he targeted a registered sex offender who has a history of arrests for impersonating a police officer. Channel 9's Jeff Deal is live now at the Sheriff's Office. And Jeff, these two men knew each other?
It did seem that way on the body camera footage released by the Sheriff's Office. They called each other by name, and initially the sergeant seemed most concerned about this convicted felon carrying what he thought was a firearm. Turns out it wasn't actually a firearm, but a non-lethal weapon called a pepper ball gun. But the sticking point now seems to be that even after making that discovery, the sergeant arrested him for something else. There is no doubt Jeremy Dewitte has been a controversial figure.
And these guys since 2014 have been harassing us.
The registered sex offender has been outspoken and been arrested several times for impersonating a police officer working for his company, Metro State Vehicle Protection Services. In fact, he was just sentenced last week to 18 months in prison as part of a plea deal. But it was his encounter during a traffic stop this past March.
Do not reach for that firearm. You hear me?
That now has an Orange County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Keith Vidler facing termination. On body camera footage, Vidler appears concerned about what he says he believes is a firearm that would be illegal for a felon like Dewitte to carry.
You're being secure because you're openly carrying a firearm.
It turned out that firearm was actually a non-lethal pepper ball gun.
You know it's a pepper ball. Stop it, man.
But that didn't stop Vidler from making an arrest.
All right, Jeremy, being arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. Concealed? It was in plain view.
A sheriff's office internal investigation found the pepperball weapon was in plain view and not concealed, and Dewitte should have been released. Investigators determined the arrest was an abuse of power. Some in the community, though, have launched a GoFundMe page supporting Vidler and a corporal who was suspended in the same case, claiming the sheriff's office targeted them. We caught up with Vidler to try to get his side of the story, but he declined to comment because he said it's against department policy.
As far as commenting or anything, I can't because I'm not officially terminated. Now, when I'm officially terminated, then I can talk all day long, but until that point, I can't.
Now, Sergeant Vidler has appealed. He has a hearing here at the sheriff's office on Friday. If that appeal is unsuccessful, he does have one other possible appeal he could go for to try to get his job back. Reporting live at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Jeff Deal, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
I'm Sergeant Justin Wall of the Orange County Sheriff's Office Professional Standards Section. Today's date is May 20th, 2021, and the current time is 12:55 p.m. This interview is being conducted at the Orange County Courthouse, located at
425 North Orange.
Thank you, 425 North Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I'm interviewing. Can you state your rank and name for me?
Major Robert Anzueto.
Also present in the room is Corporal Willie Robinson of the Professional Standards Section. Major Anzueto, are you aware that I'm recording this interview?
Yes.
Has anyone threatened, coerced, or offered you any preferential treatment to give this statement?
No, sir.
Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol that may impair your testimony?
No, sir.
Can you raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are to provide will be true and correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, as we discussed briefly, I'm conducting an investigation into some allegations that were brought forth by Mr. Jeremy Dewitte, and I'm conducting an investigation into the actions of Sergeant Keith Vidler and Corporal Ramsey in regard to some of the allegations that were brought forward, and your name has come up as being part of the overall investigation. So I just wanted to ask some questions about what you may know about this.
Sure.
Were you previously assigned to the Special Operations Division?
Yes, I was.
And you were as the major, correct?
Correct.
How long or what were the dates that you were assigned there?
It's going to be February 1st, 2019 is when I was first hired here and assigned to SOD, and continued in that role until October, I think it was 4th of 2020.
Okay. So you left about 6 months ago, 7 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. So during that time, it's come to my attention that there was an investigation that was being conducted by specifically Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey in the Motors Unit in general against Metro State. So at your level, were there any directives regarding, or did you give any directives regarding Metro State?
There was a lot of directives given in a sense of what was done at that certain time. I can tell you that this case was brought to my attention numerous times when I was the major over SOD. And there was a time in the fall of 2019 where Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey received videotapes of certain cases, and they were reviewing those cases, and they were looking at charges for those cases. There came a time where this name kept on coming up, and I gave a directive saying, look, you have until a certain amount of time to get whatever cases you need to get and submitted to the state attorney's office, because it just seemed like one case after another kept on coming up. And when they did come up, whether negative or positive, viewing the Orange County Sheriff's Office, it kept on coming up with our agency and Jeremy Dewitte. So there was an email that I wrote to Captain Carpenter in November, if I'm referring to my email here, November 20th, 2019. It was addressed to Captain Carpenter from me. The subject line was active case. And I told Captain Carpenter I had discussed this with the undersheriff and Chief Deputy Zwig about this case, and I gave him a direct order saying, look, whatever cases that we have, we need to finish up and be done with those cases. No more going after him for any more cases pertaining to those videos, because it seemed like there was 3 cases, then there was 5 cases, and then there was 11 cases. And I'm like, when is this going to stop? How many cases are you going to bring forward? Get what you need to do and be done with this. And it ended up being that we gave him till the end of December to submit any cases that he had to the state attorney's office. And I said, and I did say, look, we're not going to turn a blind eye if, this guy comes and breaks the law directly in front of you. We have an obligation to do what we need to do to uphold the law. But we're not going to actively seek out and surveil him and try to catch him dirty. If something happened in your on view, then do what you have to do. But we're not going to waste any more time, actively looking to bring charges forth against Jeremy Dewitte.
Okay, and that directive was given to Captain Carpenter?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Did you ever speak with Sergeant Vidler directly, or was this more passed down through the chain of command?
We had numerous meetings. I can't recall exactly what was verbatim said in these meetings, but I know there was a meeting in my office with Corporal Ramsey, Sergeant Vidler, Captain Carpenter, and myself, and I think Chief Deputy Zwig attended that as well. And then there was a phone conversation when we were on conference call, and my directive was, look, stop what you're, stop actively pursuing. What you have is what you have. Finish it and submit it. And that was my directive at that point.
And that was around the same time as this email?
Yes, it was.
November 20th, 2019.
And I think it was reiterated in December as well.
Okay. Is that about when that same meeting that you're referring to?
Yes.
With Sergeant Vidler? Is that around the same time that occurred?
Yes.
Okay. Did you originally give a directive to conduct this investigation, or when you first got to the unit, was it already going on prior to?
I know that when I first came to the unit, or soon after, this case was brought to my attention, and I asked Keith Vidler to give me an overview via memo of what this guy is doing, what Jeremy Dewitte's doing, the Florida statutes that he was violating, and so Keith did provide me a memo, and this was September 23rd, 2019, and I told him he was fine with working this case.
Okay. And that was in September? And
yes.
you
Sir.
have that memo to provide to me just for the audio recording?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you can make a copy of this for me as well?
Sure,
as
absolutely.
this email you have?
Yes.
To Captain Carpenter? Okay. So I know you already kind of addressed it, but I just want to be clear. Did you give any directives to stop enforcing violations of the law by Metro State or Jeremy Dewitte?
I want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this. Sergeant Vidler presented numerous cases, and I was under the impression that there was a handful of cases, then the cases went to 5, and then went to double digits. And at that point, when they kept on piling these cases, I said, we're done. I don't want to go after any more cases. What you have is what you have. I don't want you to go through, 100 hours of video that was obtained either by search warrant or from Windermere PD from a previous case. What you have is what you have. Finish those cases out and submit them to the state attorney's office. I said, we're done going with more cases. But I didn't say if Jeremy Dewitte blows by you on his motorcycle, busting a red light, doing, an escort, to just turn the other way. We're not going to turn a blind eye to someone committing a crime in our presence.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a twofold directive. The directive of stop going after him with more and more cases. Yes, I did give that directive, and that was crystal clear in that email that I sent in November.
Right.
But I did not give him a directive of completely stop and turn a blind eye if he commits a crime in your presence.
Okay. And I know that you said you had a meeting with the undersheriff and Chief Deputy Zwig. Did that directive, was that given to you by somebody higher than you, or was that something that you had
I'm sorry, I was referring to some notes. Can you repeat the question?
So was that a directive that was given to you from the undersheriff or somebody above you, or was that your decision to conclude that?
No, that was discussions with Chief Deputy Zwig that we were done with those cases.
Okay.
And I know that there was discussions with the undersheriff. When I say meeting with the undersheriff, it was just going back with the Chief Deputy Zwig and the undersheriff in discussions about this case.
Okay. When you first got to the motors unit, was there
SOD, you mean?
I'm sorry. When Special Operations Division, and was there any suggestion about the motors unit working more investigations, not specifically to this, but working investigations into street racer details, or the individuals that would come to Orange County a couple years ago, and they would shut down roadways on
like the ATVs and motorcycles? Yes,
was there a discussion about the motors unit working investigations into things like that?
I don't know if it was necessarily investigations, but it was working these details.
Okay.
But I don't remember specifically of assigning somebody to say, I want you to go undercover or work, the inside track of these organizations. I don't ever remember saying that, but I remember giving directives, we will be involved in some of these details.
Okay. As the motors unit would be?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that you know about this investigation you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. The current time is 1:07 p.m. and that concludes the interview.
Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.